Well, we're back. It's Thursday, February 20th. One more week left of February as we get marching into March Madness. For those sporting fans out there, we're getting into March. We're getting into Easter. The temperatures will get warmer. Hopefully, we'll get out of this weird weather we had. The past week we've had snow, ice, rain. One day we went from 30 degrees to almost 60 degrees here in NYC, depending on where you are in New York. And, it is a fun time going on right now in the anime universe and manga. And welcome to another edition of Otaku Thursday here on Cuticast TV. We thank you for clicking on this video. Don't forget to comment, like, share this video, and always please do subscribe if you do enjoy this content. We really do appreciate it. It moves us up, even though right now for smaller channels like myself right now, even though I've been around for several years, we're under attack by YouTube now. They really want to get rid of some of us out there. We've heard this from other YouTubers that have been talking about it, that they're being censored for some of the content they've been giving. Basically, YouTube's trying to call it nudity, sex and stuff like that, which actually we don't. We don't really show that. We might have a little fan service, as they call it, but it's not unheard of because of there are other channels out there that are running it 24/7. And they're making money for YouTube, and yet they haven't been age gated or shut down, and they're still up there. And it's not something that it's been hidden; it's out in the open. So remember, subscribe to us. We really do appreciate that. Well, we're not going to get too much news this week. We're going to really get into the story. But before we get into the story, I got to say, I'm still taking in some of the anime from over the weekend. I still got to get into Sakamoto Days. I still got, there's a couple other animes that I still got to finish off. But I got to give it to 3 this past weekend from, on there. Obviously, Dragon Ball Damia was amazing on there and gave the fan most of the fans and a good amount of, ones that loved Dragon Ball GT, what they wanted by giving us a Super Saiyan 4. Not unheard of, basically, the kind of is in Toriyama, God rest his soul, as brilliant that he is, he gave it to the fans that, this is what they wanted to see. And obviously they give it in a fantastic fight episode. And of course, the one that's coming out tomorrow when you get this video, and we're gonna get to see if someone has betrayed the group or has betrayed somebody else, because the Demon Dragon Balls have been used, and basically we now seeing the dragon from the Demon Universe. But the other half is, Solo Leveling, another show that, continues to be really good. This episode, it basically, didn't have a lot of action till toward the end of it. And supposedly we're getting an introduction. For those of you who have read the manga, indirectly, they've introduced a fan favorite from the manga, Elsie. I think if I'm pronouncing that right. That will, the way, because Jinwoo has reached the 80th floor on his way to 100. And now he's listed as an S rank, which, basically he's shocked everybody, including his own family, which is a good part of this story that's going on right now. But all in all, the animation is fantastic. The fight scenes that were going on are really good. I love that he left a couple of his soldiers behind to protect his sister. I thought that was pretty cool, if you didn't catch that. But the third one I have to give it, and like I said, there's a lot of stuff behind that might change to that situation on the top 3 that I think this week on there has to be 100 Girlfriends I really, really, really love. Now, the one thing about a lot of these shows, sometimes they have anime tropes. And what I mean by that is that they give homage to other series or to certain subject matters in the anime universe. And basically, 100 Girlfriends has done that. And, they break in the fourth wall. It is really funny. I mean, it is similar to Konosuba, which is another one that does the same thing as well. But this past week, it was the last 2 weeks actually, we were introduced to the sport girlfriend or the baseball girlfriend. And we had a baseball game, which is, hey, listen, we get that in anime, the sports anime, soccer, golf, tennis, basketball. I mean, you can go on and on and on with the sports on here. And here we got baseball. But also we had a homage to Dragon Ball Z. Yes, that's right. If you haven't caught it yet, it's really, really good that a lot of the girls started using Super Saiyan power-ups when they got to bat. And that was really good. I mean, I got to applaud the animators for that. And it's not the first time we've seen this in an anime. I mean, I can go back to Reincarnated as a Slime, which basically Veldora, who basically now has like more of a human form now in the series. Have to catch up a little bit on the last one. But there's that episode where he got into a fight and shocked the anime world where he did motions from Street Fighter and Dragon Ball Z. Did a Dragon Ball Kamehameha. I mean, you can't get better than this when you watch anime. That you get this stuff in there, and it's fun to see that this goes on. That you can give props to other great animes out there for many years. I mean, there's so much rich anime. I mean, the story today we're going to discuss. We're going to be discussing this. The good, the bad, and the ugly of this situation. And you look to the perspective that you get anime like this that just you like to have fun with it. And that's what some people don't understand, is that basically there's a lot of fun out there. There's a lot of stuff that basically, there's something for everyone, I've always said. You don't have to watch every anime. But I always tell people, take in something different. Take in something that you might have not watched before. Start to watch it a little bit. Give it a couple of chapters. You might enjoy it. No matter what anyone else has said to you about it. Take it in, find out for yourself. Do the research yourself. Don't take it in from someone that says, oh, it's full of these old CP and lolly and all that. And actually, it's not. Yes, there is a separation on some of these, probably the lolly, the hentai and stuff like that. The ecchi, the fan service, but this is something that's been around a long time. And it will be here beyond us. And I'll tell you that because, when it comes to Japan has been doing this a long time. And when you say, well, no, anime hasn't been out that long. No, but art has been out there a long time. And before there was anime, before there was manga, there were storytellers, there was artists that basically told stories similar to this. As we get into what we're going to talk to today, I mean, let's go back a bit and, we look at Golden Bat. Golden Bat started out as the story, and most people don't realize that's one of the first superheroes, one of the true, before DC or anything to that nature, and Marvel, of course, you had Golden Bat. And his story starts on the streets of Japan by storytellers who told stories of this nature. And then eventually it ended up in books and manga, and then it became an anime and a live-action movie. Sonny Chiba, if you're familiar with Sonny Chiba, who's done a lot of the martial arts guy, I saw he was in Kill Bill. He was in the original Golden Bat movie, which catch out there is really, really good. I think Shout has the rights to it these days, I believe. For a while, they were running it on YouTube. I don't know if they're still doing that 24-hour stream of a lot of the Asian movies that are really, really good out there. But the two things I want to bring up. And I want to bring up this part first. And I have this person blacked out because I don't want you to bother him or her, whoever this person is. But you're starting to hear this thing again. Anime tourist. And I want to read a little bit into it so we get into, because there are those out there, and it is true, there are some fake fans out there. There's a slice. You have the anime fan. You have the anime. Let's put this: anime guru, the anime fan. Then you have those who are just one-off. You can't call them a tourist. And then you have the activists who are just not really fans or a fake fan that basically are there to criticize anime, manga because they just don't like the content. It's the same type where people don't like porn movies. They don't like horror films. They don't like certain bloody action movies. This is the same group of people constant day in, day out. That's always constant. And that basically, if we talk against something like from the Hollywood nature, stuff like Disney was producing out and all that, they'll start to chastise us, saying, this is better than what's out there, really. But I'm going to read this. It says, maybe I'm out of the loop, but I've noticed the term tourist being thrown out a lot lately, typically used in a derogatory way. It is the equivalent of calling someone a fake fan, apparently. At first, I didn't really care until I noticed that the only time I really see people being called that is when they're expressing their discomfort with certain anime tropes. I generally don't understand this. How is exactly someone a tourist for not enjoying weird incest, pedo, lolly, shota, bait, etc. tropes in their anime? This isn't new. You're allowed to be an anime fan without enjoying those things. That's okay. You're allowed to be an anime fan while actively criticizing those things. Hell, you don't need to be an anime fan to speak on it because it's objectively weird. There are so many different kinds of anime, something for everyone to value in. Yes, I agree with that 100%. That's why I love it so much. So why is people dogpiling you and calling you a tourist when you aren't comfortable with these tropes? Like exactly what they're trying to say here, it makes the anime community look awful. TDR, I don't understand the tourist insult and I want to share my frustration. It never comes on here. Sorry if maybe someone has already posted about this. Well, the thing about it is, it's not that they're basically the fake fan, which there are fake fans out there. And, I call it the tourists, just the people that are watching the current anime of the day that are really super popular. They're not really fans, but they come here for a little bit of the content. And basically, some of them, they tend to step their foot in it sometimes, but it's okay. It's their opinion. And I do agree with that. It's their opinion. But then you get those out there. And this is just recently. If you go over to Ghibli, he's been knocked on this a couple of times. There is a series called The Melancholy of Haru Suzumiya. Lately, this has been coming up lately. Why? I have no freaking idea. I haven't seen this in a long time, and actually it's going to make me go back and watch it again, so at least I can refresh myself. This is from the early 2000s, 2006 to be exact. It's coming up to an anniversary in April. And, it's a good series. I mean, all in all, it is, it's kind of fun and situation, and you get, stuff like this where you get dancing and stuff like that. But, you hear that some people have equated this with the 1980s. And you have to remember that Haru Suzumiya is one of the most influencing anime of all time from the 2000 era. And, it is a fun situation, but you see stuff like this that was posted, and Ghibli put this out, is that you got people who starts calling this, I got reincarnated as Diddy and now I want to go to the store to buy a cupcake.
What the hell is even that?
This is the criticizing that we see in anime and manga as of late, in the last decade or so. Anything out there that they disagree with. And okay, you're allowed to disagree with certain content out there, but when you start to create campaigns and to interject things that doesn't exist in the anime, or it's not part of the anime, or it's not from that era of the anime from previous, you can't sit there and start to slam on that. I mean, now what you're seeing is now that we're getting a My Dress Up Darling season 2, and Ghibli put out a post, that was, a little fan service in there, but with Marin. And the thing is that it is a great series. I mean, this is, like I said, there are things that are some good that I would watch, and some things were bad. If I go back about 25, 30 years, I wouldn't think to pick this up. This type of rom-com type situation. I wasn't really into rom-coms back in the day, other than something like a Tenshi Munyo, which was really good, and that's, you can say that's one of the early harems, or Rama Half. But there were like a lot of others out there that, didn't really come into the fold circle until well later on, as anime became very big. But now, because there's some fan service in with Marin's situation, now they're starting to criticize it. And the same thing with Free Ren. I don't know what is what problem they have with Free Ren now. I mean, could you tell me in the comments? Because basically, I really, I've seen some of this stuff, and I just can't focus on what is going on to that point with Free Ren. It is a great fantasy story. It is literally one of the best animes out there. As far as its classification. You don't get these that often. I mean, but there's some great ones out there that are similar to that nature. Some a little more violent than others. Others than that they're really, really good. But yet we continue to see this and constantly happening. The other half of this story point is, you get people that are criticizing certain things in anime and manga series. For example, like Chainsaw Man, because they try to criticize Chainsaw Man for some of the sex tropes that are in the series itself. That they're crying out. They say, "Oh, why is there sex in this series? Why that's never happened before?" If you're saying this, then you've never read Chainsaw Man. Honestly, it's the same thing with Dragon Ball. It's the same thing with Reincarnation as a Slime, basic, and many others. Demon Slayer. You can go down the list of manga that basically have certain tropes. The fan service, the nudity, the sex, the violence, the blood, the gore. They'll go to ReZero and they say, "Why is it so violent?" Because basically that's what the story is. The guy has the ability to reincarnate, but he dies horribly every time. Of course you're going to have that. It's not the point where it's like, snap, he's back on there. You want to be able to understand his pain that he's going through when he dies and gets resurrected again. That, he has a time skip back. And it's the same thing like with Goblin Slayer. Goblin Slayer, you have to the point, back when it first came out, people were criticizing because of what they heard in the manga of the rape scene and stuff like that. Honestly, when you looked at the series itself, it was pretty much one chapter. It's one episode. Very early in the series. But people didn't understand what was going on here. Goblins were bad. They're the bad guys. They're evil. They're creatures, monsters.
They're eating her. And then they're going to eat me. Oh my God!
This is not a Brady Bunch moment. And what I mean by the Brady Bunch moment is basically, if you ever watch the Brady Bunch, things are resolved in 30 minutes. Life doesn't resolve itself in 30 minutes. sometimes things can be bad. Sometimes things can go dark. Some things can be utterly grotesque. And that's what's good about some of these stories. And if you don't think that it's has had it here in the West, you're totally wrong. We've seen it, and I've talked about this before. I've talked about the movies of the 1970s, the 1980s. This is stories that people write. Some of it are based on fact that's happened in some people. Others are just science fiction or fiction itself to that point. But it's still stories itself. With Goblin Slayer, you talk about a guy who's bent on, destroying goblins because he had a tragedy in his life that took something away, someone away from his life. And basically now he's on a campaign to just kill goblins. That's all he does. There's that joke, the Goblin Slayer bridge. I love to kill goblins,
We wanted to get your advice on how to kill
Goblins, of course. I knew this day would come. You've come to the right place. Step into my office.
But that puts the emphasis to to the actual story itself. This is what this guy wants to do. It's not to the point he wants to go out and fight dragons or other monsters and stuff like that. He's just focused on goblins because goblins are evil and people don't really care to go after them all the time. And they cause a lot of grief, on people. There's that toward the end of the first season where basically, the farm where he was living at was about to be attacked by an entire army. And he was able to gather an army to basically stop these goblins. But this is nothing new. It is nothing new. I mean, going back to Suzima, they try to push this as a 80s trope to the situation. And I say, and this is why I say that, that they're fake, there are fake fans out there. And then there are those who just watch anime in passing because they might find something interesting like a Solo Leveling, a Dragon Ball Z type situation, Damia. But there's stuff out there that goes back decades into the 1980s. And you look to the perspective is that there was fan service back then. The early Dragon Ball stuff from first season of Dragon Ball before Z, you had a little bit of that situation there, with Bulma. That doesn't come to that situation on there. You had also fan service in Tenchi Muyo to that point as well. And Sailor Moon and Cutie Honey. If you're not familiar with Cutie Honey, that to that point, one that you do have to catch. It's really good. You have that. And, you get the stuff that's really violent out there. I mean, you can go after, and I've talked about this before. Most people don't realize this is Mad Bull 34. If you haven't caught Mad Bull 34, holy crap. I mean, technically you can see it here on YouTube. It's out there. It's ultra violent. It's very violent, very sexual. There's sex in it. There's a lot of the big tropes that, you would see in certain anime today. And this is going back to the 1980s. I mean, you look at the Sci-Fi Channel, for example, and a lot of the movies that was on the Sci-Fi Channel on Saturday mornings in that time period, toward the late 80s into the 90s, and before Toonami. And, you had Lily Cat, you had Vampire Hunter D, you had the Project Echo stuff. That was a big thing back then. Wicked City, Demon City Shinjuku. I can go on and all the stuff that's been shown on there. And it's ultra, a lot of it was ultra violent as well. Really good stuff. Ultra violent. Nobody really cared much on that to the point to say, hey, this is bad. It's ugly, the situation, I mean, a lot of the stuff when it got released, stuff, I think I pronounced it manga. Back then, they had a stamp on there that said not for kids. This is a cartoon not for kids. We had that on a lot of the animes when they were released on VHS at that time period. I mean, even in the late 70s, that you had some nudity out there. Galaxy Express 39. I mean, it wasn't like the nudity that you see today, but they're, shower scenes and stuff like that. Basically, people changing their clothes, or basically they've lost their clothes for some weird reason, and it happens in a lot. And then you have certain characters that people disagreed with, stuff like in Cyborg 009. Or in Dragon Ball itself, Mr. Popo, there was some people criticizing Mr. Popo. You saw him, they changed his color to blue from black to that point because they said, oh, it's being a little racist. I mean, Popo is Popo. He's not a human being. Whatever you want to call him to that situation. And I'm jumping around here, but Vandred was another early series, going back a bit, which was out before Suzima. This was out in 2000. I think there was a couple of small channels out there that was playing these episodes back then. And basically, if you're not familiar with Vandred, it's a really good series on there. It's a universe where men and women do not live on the same planet. They are at odds against each other. Something that I hope we're not headed toward, because basically it's the mentality that you see what's happened between the men and women in this universe. Basically, they're at odds, and of course you get the twisting of the reality itself. They have the point where you see the first opening episode that they consider women to be monsters and they devour men into that situation. And it's not true. Some of them are pirates and warriors and stuff like that. And this is what has happened on there. And there's a lot of fan service. A lot of fan service in the series. And it gets to a point where they some of them have had to join together to try to survive, because basically there is a threat from what remains of Earth, from these machines that are trying to just literally butcher everybody. And you get to learn about yourself, oneself, in this series. I mean, you have even a character out there, which technically you can call transgender. But this particular person, this woman, she's there because she is a spy for the men. And she used to be a man. She was operated on to give the looks of the woman. And basically, even the voice, he had a special voice box that made it sound like a woman. He presses it, and you see toward the end of the series, you get to hear the original voice, what he really sounded like. But this was This was not an emotional choice. Not to say, well, I feel like a woman. It's basically, he was there for a job to that situation. And that's what the story, and I've heard a couple of people saying, well, look at there it is. There's the proof of trend. No, it's part of the story. But it like I said, a lot of fan service, and this is the 2000s on there. I mean, calling out some of these people for doing these things is not a bad thing, because basically, you want to try to, at least the ones that will listen and basically try to understand things that are going on, you want to tell them, it says, listen, this is, things that are not bad. If you haven't seen it and you're just hearing someone else saying it and seeing some photos to the situation, this is the same thing what happened with Vice News when it was out, when they talked about, they went around, just clipping pictures, taking videos, speaking with, bad people out there, and those people saying, well, no, it has nothing to do with anime, it has nothing to do with lolly or anything of that nature. I've always been sick, and the thing is that, yeah, they do watch these things and stuff like that, but that's not the zeroing in of their problems. People have problems. People have bad problems. You have to understand that in the world. You can't blame it on the entertainment. This has been happening for decades now. We'll go back to the 90s to that situation with Senate subcommittee hearings. Saturday cartoons were taken down because of that. You had people just lying through their teeth. Talk about the Gores, Al Gore and his wife, that basically they try to say, well, this is what music is, and people pointed out to them, no, it's not. You had lawsuits, and situations where they said, well, it's this way, and it's a lie. And it's the same thing in the anime universe and in the manga universe. Yes, we do have lolicon. Yes, we do have all these weird things out there. You can go through the hentai stuff. Yeah, there's some weird stuff out there. Not everyone in the anime universe watches that. They don't push onto that. But you have characters in the anime universe that are young, obviously, to that situation. Like in Rise of the Shield Hero. I mean, even in 100 Girlfriends, you have a couple of characters that are young, but they're not children. Like you have one character, the science nerd, who's in there, but actually she's an adult. She's more older than what she is, but she uses a formula that makes her young, but it actually turns her very young. But she's an adult to this situation. Then you have other characters, in Gate. You have the goddess, that basically goddess of death, basically that, Rory Mercury. She's about almost 1,000 years old, and people would say, look at that lollygoth. She's not meant to be a child. She's drawn young, but you can say for yourself and this is in the realm of reality. There are those out there, men and women, who are adults that look very young as they get older. I've seen people in the porn industry. They're in their mid-20s and 30 into their 30s, and they look younger. They look like they're in their teens. It's not that it's that they put themselves to that way. This is how they were born, and basically they have a more youth-looking orientation. I mean, some people don't believe that. Me myself, I'm 58. They think I'm in my 30s, 40s at this point. Same thing with my wife. They think my wife is almost in her 70s, and she looks like she's in her 40s. This is something that is in the realm of reality. And you're going to get other characters this way, and this is the type that they draw to this situation. You have vampires, the vampire series where they look very young, that they basically became vampires very young, and they've lived hundreds or thousands of years, similar to one character in the movie and in the TV series, Interview with a Vampire. And if you watch the original 1994 movie, you had Kristen Dunst, who played Claudia, who was bitten as a young girl who became a vampire, and she's lived for a long, long time. And the thing about it is, her age, because she's a vampire, she doesn't change in age. And people say, well, that's being pedo and stuff like that. No, that's part of the story and part of the anger. And if you see this, there's a scene where she just goes all off, that she doesn't want to look like this anymore, that she wants to grow. And this happens with some of these characters that have immortality. Getting back to Roy Mercury from Gate, they said, well, she gets a little excited, with violence and stuff like that. But she says, as soon as she reaches a certain part, she's not going to be affected by it. That basically, emotionally, she's not going to feel this anymore, to that nature. That she just literally, just basically, she's moving into God, another realm of godhood. And that's the thing you don't understand to these characters sometimes, especially the ones that are young. Yeah, there's a couple of ones that are in there that just basically, basically the main character, they want to be with the main character, and a little younger, then all of a sudden it comes on there. But the understanding point is that the main character puts it to the place where he says, you're a little young. You're a little young on there. And, you got to give me a little respect to that nature. And it's not put out in all those words, but still you have that. These are characters. These are characters that are drawn by the anime universe. And when you look at the anime universe itself, most of these characters are similar in many ways in nature. You can't say that they're similar to the ones back in the 60s and 70s, because they've changed a lot since then. But if you look to the late 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, a lot of what's been drawn onto the screen or put onto paper manga are similar in nature. Some of them, yeah, okay, they look a little young. Some of them, but that's the characters themselves. They're just literally the characters, and this is what the problem is with a lot of these people. They just, they just want to gatekeep to the situation that, they said, it's really bad on there. I mean, today they're going to go after it for the content of the sexuality, the fan service. Later, they're going to go after the violence. It doesn't stop. But you have to put this to the point, and this is what I'm getting to, is that it's not the sex, it's not the lolly, it's not the hentai, it's not the harem, it's not the ecchi. It's all anime that they want to get rid of. Why? Because this is what they've been doing. There are those out there that have literally, utterly destroyed the fandoms for Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars, D&D. I can go on, and even gaming, comic books. You've seen this from the West. And, they said, well, it's the West values. No, it's not that it's the West values. Is that there are those out there that just want to see the world burn. They'd rather go back to a time period where, if it's the terminology obscene. What is obscene to you? What is it from a technical aspect? And I'll tell you this, because people say, well, there are laws in the United States that this stuff banned. No, there are no laws. Because basically what they call the Miller's test, when it comes to anime and all this stuff, it passes the Miller's test very easily. And they said, well, it has a high threshold. Yeah, of course it has a high threshold because of the Constitution. You could sit there and look to the perspective, like what's playing right now, the DXD ending, which is, hey, listen, it's a little bit of fandom to the situation, but it's not a problem. But there are those out there, which there's a novel out there that talks about this, that these are the new Puritans. And, going to the new world order that they're trying to do. Imagine if the current president wasn't elected. What would it be like that right now? I mean, you have credit card processors trying to change, basically try to manipulate the manga and anime industry by, trying to force them to censor. But that's wrong. That's against, these are American companies. And that violates the Constitution on our end. And they should be looked into. Even though this is in Japan, it should be looked into that there's money being spent on trying to shut down certain content out there. And the continuation point that you have those that don't have a stopping point. And I do mention a lot of movies situation on there. Fahrenheit 451, another movie that's that nature. Equilibrium. These are things where basically you've had book burnings, basically content, art, expression removed. And this is what they want. And you see what is going on, and we're talking about it on Man with the Show, what happened in Germany recently on 60 Minutes, where they're talking about going after people for memes, calling it hate speech. We don't have hate speech in the United States. We have a constitution. Hate speech, according to the Supreme Court, doesn't exist because people are allowed to express themselves. It's the same thing with animes. Is what do you call adult content? What do you call hate speech? What do you call sexual content? People have different opinions to that nature, and that's the problem. That is the problem in nature, and this is why we have the problem right now being pushed into anime and manga. You have those who basically want to destroy the industry and get rid of what they find objectionable, they find obscene. Even if they destroy stuff that isn't in that category, they're willing to do that. Trust me, I've lived long enough to see this, happening in real time. And like I said, I've been watching anime since I was a kid, since 1970s. Before my teens, I was watching anime. And I know there's a lot of my friends that, same situation, that they've been in this nature. And of course, those who point it out are attacked, like Chibi Reviews. There've been attacks on him left and right, which is wrong. I mean, he's had threats. He's going into a lawsuit now. I mean, we've had the same thing like with Quartering, and many others. Tim Pool. You go down the line of people that, voice their opinions on things, and they bring out the receipts, and then they say, we can't have that. We can't have that. It's wrong. It's a misinformation. Who deemed you the arbiter of misinformation? See, the thing is, I like to debate and tell people, this is what it is. Look into this perspective. But they don't want to look at that perspective. And they said, I don't want to watch it. I said, well, then don't watch it. I'm not forcing you to watch it. And it's the same thing with stuff from the West. No one has not told you to watch stuff from the 80s or the 90s or that situation. Nobody has forced you to that. No one's forced you to buy certain magazines and covers, but you want to ban them, similar to what has happened to Cosmopolitan and Sports Illustrated Swimsuit Edition, which have been removed from the Walmart front counters. Why? They deemed them pornographic. What is wrong with women in bikinis, number one? Number two, what is wrong with a magazine that is dedicated talking about women's issues? You see the point it is? It's like I say, where are the feminists at this point? They say we have too much sex in our society. Sex sells, number one. Number two, that is a driving force to our nature. It is in our animal nature to that point. For the reason that is procreation. That is part of our existence, to procreate. And people say, well, people are having sex and they're having, unmarital sex. Well, that's the choices they make. That is the choices they make. Look at to the point where you got people, men and women, that are having problems getting relationships, looking at robot dolls and stuff like that, and inanimate objects and AI programs to basically stop the loneliness that they have in their life. It's not new. It's been around for a long time. Loneliness has been around a long time. Mental illness has been around a long time, but we have not done anything to really resolve those situations. All the experts and politicians and those is blame the violence, blame the music, blame the movies, blame the fandom, blame the anime, and blame the manga. You see where I'm getting to? It's the same argument when it comes to guns, knives, and stuff like that, where they say, we need to get rid of the guns. It says, why? Because it's hurting people, it's killing people. I said, guns don't go off by themselves. Knives don't get stabbed, doesn't stab people on their own. You need someone to do it. And it's that person's emotions, their anger, or mental instability that's going to do it. We've seen this. You've seen it on Man Man with the Show, the things that are going on in New York and throughout the country. Stop blaming all this stuff. Stop blaming your issues. Stop blaming that your child died, because, they had a poster on the wall of a great anime series or maybe Star Trek or anything else. Don't blame that. Look for within yourself. People stop looking within themselves as far as to blame themselves. They're looking to blame someone else or trying to make a buck off the situation. But I wanted you to take a moment in this situation to comment. Yeah, I know we went a little bit longer, but Sometimes, we get into a conversation, and hopefully one day I'll have some people on that we can have even a greater conversation on this industry. So comment in there. Tell me your thoughts about this. Tell me, the anime tourist, the fake fan. Are anime tourists fake fans? Are they not? Is there a distinction between all this to the situation on there? Let me know in the comments. I would like to hear from you on that. Be nice to the situation. If you have an actual argument to the situation, I want to hear that. I don't want to see the situation where you're just throwing up the same tropes that they're throwing up online. Also, share this video. It's very important that you share it. Hit the like and subscribe. Very important that you subscribe to our show right now, because basically there's a lot that's going on. As I said in the beginning of the show, YouTube is trying to erase smaller channels. I know we've been here for years. We've had our issues with YouTube situation. Some people have had it worse than us. There are those who are, there's like a show that does booty time or whatever the hell they call it under there. And they're showing content that's basically out there on YouTube that doesn't get age restricted, that basically makes money for YouTube, and that runs 24/7 live streams of this. But meanwhile, another live stream that brings that up, they get either age restricted or they get a content strike. Yeah, who knows what will happen with this video. I mean, we've been doing very well with Otaku Thursday on there. We're getting some good viewers, good discussions onto there. We really do appreciate on that. So until next time, take in some anime, take in some manga. Treat it like a fine bottle of wine. Crack it open, smell it, taste it, enjoy it, because that's what it is. Take in something different, something you wouldn't choose. You say, like, if you're into the action, take it in a rom-com, or if you're into rom-com, take it into something, sporty. You never know, you might like it. So until next time, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time on this channel, same time, same square, 6 p.m. Eastern on Thursday at the end of the month. Yeah, end of February. So, again, enjoy your content and have a good one. Bye-bye now.
Thanks for watching, commenting, and sharing this video. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe, as this helps the reach of this channel. Finally, as a content viewer, you have the ability to help support this channel, as new internet laws around the world will diminish our reach and affect our sponsors. If you choose to help, there are 2 ways listed in the description below. The first link will lead you to a pay site where you can make a monetary donation. The second will lead you to our gear shop, where you can buy shirts, mugs, and other gear. Discounts will be listed on the site. Once again, thank you for watching and your support.
Decisions make me anxious. I put hours and they thank you. Don't be fuck on what you think, bitch. Make sure let me